Guys, what's up? It's Andrew. Just wanted to introduce myself and talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing here on this channel. All right, so to start out here, the very first thing we're going to be doing, and I'm going to be jumping into here, it will be revolving around computer science and C++. Now, I know there's a lot of C++ videos out there and a lot of programming videos out there. One of the big things I really want to focus on more so in these tutorials is focusing more on the best practices and the things that a lot of tutorials don't teach you, such as data structures, algorithms, you know, to be more specific, searching algorithms, sorting algorithms, you know, tree structures, hash tables. These are a lot of subjects that seem to be skipped in a lot of the most popular tutorials out there. Not that there's anything wrong with those tutorials, you know, they're really great and I've learned a lot of stuff from those tutorials. But when it comes down to it and you really want to, you know, start getting into the workforce, building large scale applications, especially scalable applications, you really want to have that information on hand and you want to be able to make the best use of it, especially when you start to work with, you know, larger clients, better workplaces, so on and so forth. So I'm going to be going over a lot of that to start. Now, I'm also going to be going over some OS specific work, you know, such as Linux. I'm going to be doing a lot of work here in Linux. And because of that, I'm also going to start getting into how operating systems work, how computers just work in general. We're going to get into some engineering practices as well. Now, some of that may sound intimidating to some of y'all, but I guarantee you I've been doing this for more than 11 years now. So I'm going to do my best to make sure that this is a universal tutorial that can be understood by even the most seasoned programmers all the way down to someone who's just now stepping into programming. And that's why throughout the course of, of these tutorials, I'm going to be catering it more so towards them. So if you're someone who, you know, you're 100% confident that there's nothing else you can learn, because I guarantee you, as I'm going through these first tutorials, I'm really going to go over those basic concepts, but I'm also going to teach what got to those basic concepts. And it's really going to help you out in the later end of these tutorials. Now, if, like I said, you feel 100% confident about your skills and you feel like everything's fine, I'd recommend you wait till around video 15 or just skip around to video 15 because that's probably where we're going to start getting the more advanced concepts. And when we start getting into mid to late 20s, we're probably going to start talking about some more in-depth study on algorithms and things of that matter. Now, one of the big things about this channel is we have computer science and we have software engineering. Now, I myself am a software engineer, but one of the big flaws I found in my day-to-day work was that computer scientists really knew a lot of crucial information that I really, really wish I had paid more attention to as I was learning to program. So, given a few examples of that, an engineer is more concerned with, how do I build this? How do I make this work? They get a contract and they just go for it. The computer scientists, they really spend a lot of time researching, studying, figuring things out, and building these tools that the engineer then uses. So obviously, when I say it that way, your first thought should be, okay, well, I should probably know both of those. And that's a common thought. The biggest problem is it's a ridiculous amount of information. It's very heavy. Now, it's definitely recommended that you actually do learn both. So that's all in regards to, programming, computer science, and software engineering. Now, this channel isn't just going to be dedicated to C++, C, anything like that. I want to get very in depth with a lot of languages and a lot of different technologies. After these C and C++ tutorials, we may go into more, how to build an operating system, how they work. Uh, I would like to get into game engines such as the Unreal Engine 4, these types of things. But in order to get there, we really need to gather all of these best practices. Now, I like to move fast, so if there's anything wrong or the videos are going too fast for you, or you'd like me to go over and cover something else, just don't hesitate to message me. It's not just going to be me making videos, it's going to be a network of other developers and engineers making videos as well. It's not even going to be restricted to just computer science and software. We're actually going to have some electrical engineering videos as well as application-specific videos on setting up different technologies. So I'm going to give you a really brief introduction here on, just something to get you started. That way, whenever we move on to the first video lecture, we can jump right into it. We don't have to worry about this whole setup and everything like that. So the first thing you may or may not notice right now is that I'm actually working in Ubuntu Linux. Now, there's a couple reasons I'm doing this. For one, I'm just using a desktop right now. It's just, my normal desktop environment. Everything's fairly normal and straightforward. This is actually running in VMware. So the reason I'm doing that right now, number one, like I said, the video is catered for people who are new to programming and new to this, I expect you all to be new at development. Now, Ubuntu is a really great platform to start out with, in my opinion. Now, there's going to be some people who may rage in the comments, and if you do, let's have at it. I love that. Now, so one of the reasons I think Ubuntu is really great to work with is it's very user-friendly out of the box. There's almost no setup, installation, or configuration. There's nothing advanced about this at all. You have Unity right here. It's a big RAM hog. I'm not even going to play that down. Seriously, you want to come onto Ubuntu, 4 gigs might cut it. I wouldn't do that. 8 is where I would, draw the line. 6 is probably fine, so people don't argue about that one. But yeah, big RAM hog. But even in that, it's a familiar environment. Someone coming from Windows probably have it really easy. You hit the Windows button and you come up right here. And this, it's just a normal what you'd expect. You type in whatever you're looking for, and that's it right out of the box. So Ubuntu is really great for that. I also prefer Ubuntu myself in this case because when I'm working in a desktop environment that's not Windows and I'm just having a good time and I want the best of both worlds, I'll probably just stick with Ubuntu. Fedora, CentOS, which is pretty much the exact same thing, DB, Debian, Wheezy, all of that. That's all great. And, just a side note, Ubuntu is just Debian with a bunch of other stuff thrown on top of it. So, for example, one of the cool things about Debian is I have this, transparent terminal right here. And that is just crazy helpful. And it's really, lets me do a lot of just everything I could ever want. I just open it up. I have a second window, just pops up right there. Works out really well. Now, those are some of the things I really like about Debian. You have a lot of options. Another good development environment. It's going to get into pen testing and hacking, security, vulnerabilities, all of that kind of stuff, which I'd like to get into later. But Kali Linux, right out of the box, comes with a lot of development tools installed. Now, whether or not you want to develop in that environment is your own choice. It's not a super stable environment. Developing in CentOS is it'll work just the same. You can install pretty much everything you'd already expect to be able to install, such as Eclipse, code blocks. It's all still going to work. It's like I said, Ubuntu in this case, in my opinion, just happens to be an easy platform for you to get involved with, and we can get into some hardcore development work. Google avidly supports it with a few different products, such as Android Studio. Eclipse runs fine in it. Actually, the latest versions of Ubuntu come pre-configured to run a lot of Windows applications as well. Now, if you don't want to run Linux and you don't want to run Ubuntu, that's completely fine. Just about everything I'll teach, minus all the Linux stuff, will run completely fine in Visual Studio. Now, I recommend you go install Visual Studio 2013 Express Edition at the time of this video. However, Microsoft did recently release Visual Studio Express Edition and Ultimate Preview 2015. Now, I have had a pretty good amount of experience using the 2015 edition. It's not as stable. I actually have used it enough to experience a few crashes, but a lot of what it offers is very it's pretty wonderful, and I got to hand it to Microsoft for that product. Windows development is great. We're not really going to get into a whole lot of, well, I'm not going to get into a whole lot of, the .NET framework and everything like that, which, just to throw it off, the latest version of the .NET framework is platform independent, so that's really cool, but that's a discussion for a different video. Now, a lot of the features in Visual Studio 2015, at least for a good while in these tutorials, you're not going to be using them. Now, I'm going to get into memory management, runtime analysis, big O notation, things like that, and they'll definitely be helpful tools at that time. So if you want to have, just for right now, just realize you can go install Visual Studio 2013 or 2015. Both have Express editions for free. The ultimate preview right now, that's the ultimate preview. So you can go get either one. These tutorials, like I said, they're going to work completely. It's all going to be platform independent. We're not going to use any system calls, anything like that. So don't worry about that. So in regards to that, you can develop on those IDEs. Now, if you want to stick closer to me and you're using Windows, I'd advise you go ahead and use code blocks on Windows. Now, it's going to be a pretty quick installation. Everything will be, completely fine. I'm not going to go over how to install code blocks, things like that. I'm sorry. It's just, it should be simple enough. And, honestly, a 5-year-old could do it. Not to say 5-year-olds are dumb. I've actually met some genius 5-year-olds. But with that in mind, let's get started with that. So if you'd also like to follow along strictly with me, this terminal I have right here is called Guake, and that's Guake. That's really it. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and close that. Now, the IDE, like I said, I'll be using is code blocks. I find that code blocks is actually, it's a really damn good choice for an IDE. You can change the theme. It's pretty bright for me. It's white. Some people don't like that. Visual Studio, I choose the dark theme. It's looks pretty cool. So it's pretty straightforward to get started in code blocks. I mean, you can see right here, just create a new project, and in my case, I will just create an empty project, and I never skip it. Maybe it's just, superstition for me. But in this case, I'll just call this tutorial, and that is a Cetadet. That's actually my corporation. We can just ignore that. Next thing we have here is project file name. You don't want to change this, unless you have a specific reason to. I can't imagine why you would. At least not this, this early into the game. Really no reason. Leave it alone. Code blocks essentially just, .cbp, code blocks project. It uses it to compile the program, and it memorizes where everything is, any dependencies to the program, and we'll get into more about what dependencies are here in just a bit. The resulting file name, this is, just telling you the full path to where it is. /cetadet tutorial code blocks. Now in Linux, this if it starts with a slash, it's saying go to the very root and continue from that point. You'll see something where it says // that says, dot means current directory, / you're jumping into a file folder in your current directory. So from there we can go to next. Now in this case, it's probably going to default to whatever you need. I'm running Linux GCC. I know that's there. I can just check that with that. I can see all of that. By the way, I was just hitting tab in Linux if you want to see, if you can't remember a command. For example, if I were to, just guac. Okay, I can't remember. Is it an E or, what it might be? I mean, you have to know how to spell, but it will complete it for me. And now I see a list of, just two commands that I can choose from. So, and I just press Control L to clear the screen, or you can type clear. So, I know that the GCC compiler is there, however, there's a pretty extensive list of options. Create a debug configuration. Now, just leave this to yes. In a couple videos, we're gonna start talking about using GDB and Valgrind to debug your application. One of the big problems I've seen in a lot of C++ or any program tutorials is they really skip debugging. And it seems like, oh, I'm never going to have to debug. It's not useful. No, it really is. It's something you really want to know that. So, debug options. We'll just debug options output directory. We'll leave that the same. The objects output directory. We'll talk about objects in another couple of videos as well. Create the release. Just go ahead and click yes or no. It's doesn't matter. Stick with me. Just click yes, and everything will pretty much be exactly as is right there. So that's fine. And then we'll just start very quickly, and we're going to end it here shortly. But the first thing we'll do is we'll just add a C/C++ source, and that will create it. In our case, we're going to make it a C++ file, and we'll just have the file name. So we'll go in here. Literally, it's just a matter of typing in main.cpp in my case. It'll put the rest in there for me. Make sure you add it to the same things you had before, and finish. Now, I'm holding control and scrolling in to actually get back here. And that is pretty much it. I'll just leave you with this. And we'll get more into return types, the different types of options you can have, and just everything else, because there's really a lot that's going to happen. Just as a little teaser, and to keep a tradition, we'll just throw in this, and that will print out just so that's going to compile. And if I were to just run it, there, hello world, and I press Control F9 to actually compile that, and I hit Control F10 to run that. Those of you running on Windows, one of the common things to do, especially right now, go ahead and type this. Just system pause, exactly like that. On Linux, don't worry about that. That's not going to run. We can, literally, well, we don't need to do that. We can just start at the directory. We can go straight to tutorial, bin. I'm, jumping ahead right here. I'm not explaining what CD is, but this is really just more of an introduction type video. So we can go straight to this, and you'll see that right here. That's the application we actually compiled. So in Linux, if you do a / and then the application name, often it'll be green if you have it set to default. It's an executable, and you'll see it. Hello world, not. Had to change it up just a little bit. So alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. In our next tutorial, we're going to start going over what a program actually is, how they work, and the overall structure of a program, a basic program in C++, being your includes, function declarations, things like that, the actual, your main function, which is what's happening first. We're also going to get into styling. There are problems with this code I just put up right now. It wasn't meant to be anything except for that. It's something I'm going to keep for the next for the next lecture, and we'll start analyzing that. I also hope to have some good friends of mine, some other engineers, post up some pretty good videos here. And yeah, that will be it for now. Leave a like, subscribe, and if you have any questions or anything you want to see specifically covered in these videos, please let me know. Give me a message, a comment. If it doesn't show up, I'll make sure I can get it directly to you with some personal time. I also run a Skype support group for C++, and we're all pretty supportive of each other. So Yeah, uh, thanks, and hope everyone has a great rest of your day or night, and hopefully I hear from you all again soon. Thanks.